Hey folks, welcome back to my channel Relationship Haven. My name is Gary and I hope you're all having a fantastic day or evening. Wherever you are in today's story, Opie found out his wife cheated on him with a colleague of hers after he hired a PI. The PI then revealed that S wife and her affair partner had numerous times talked about planning to take S life by poisoning him so they could hide their affair. The next story is an instant revenge story where P's wife cheated on him with a guy she met at a bar and then immediately got herpes, and now her life is over. Let's get into today's stories. We got married in the year 2000, had 2 kids and lived a generally happy life of a working couple. A few years ago, her interest in our relationship started tapering down whenever I brought it up. She attributed to her work and the responsibilities of the kids. She'd shower me with some extra attention for a few days and we'd move on. The discovery day was Valentine's Day in 2020. We had planned to cook together at home when I returned home from work that day. She wasn't there. I checked her location on Find My iPhone and she was at her favorite restaurant. She returned home drunk later and passed out. I checked her phone and found messages between her and the affair partner. We had shared our respective passcodes with one another. However, she had been very diligent about physically guarding her phone and deleting all their communications right away. But she missed the last few on account of being drunk. Also, it was the first time in years she had left her phone unattended. It usually went everywhere with her. Even in the shower, she had been sleeping with her phone under the pillow for the past few years. After some time, I finally had confirmation of the affair and the identity of who the affair partner was and still is. It turned out that he was a colleague of hers. He's married too. I chose not to confront the wayward spouse right away. I had been developing a growing awareness that she was becoming a masterful and smooth liar. Anytime she needed to explain her whereabouts, she would come up with a perfectly plausible excuse. At the spur of the moment, I wasn't expecting anything out of confronting her other than being buried with 1,000 lives, such as it being a harmless flirtation or just a quick one-time indiscretion. I needed to know the depth of her affair. I instinctively knew it pretty much at this point. But I wanted solid data. I hired a private investigator and put some security cameras outside my home to see who was coming and going. The PI obtained the security footage at her favorite restaurant going back over a year. Many times I was able to overhear her talking on her phone at home when she didn't think I was around or within earshot. The information came in through a fire hose. Their affair had been going on for 3.5 years. At this point, wayward spouse and partner had been privately gloating about being able to keep it a secret from their respective spouses for this long. Their prevailing sentiment was that if their respective spouses haven't discovered the truth, everything including the very affair had to be their own fault. More details kept coming: her penchant for unprotected sex, her pregnancy by a partner and an abortion. She had, as well as their home visits during lunch hours for sex, phone sex when they couldn't meet, and dissing everyone around them. I was shocked by how thoroughly contemptuous she was towards even those of her friends who absolutely adored her. She has such a planet-sized network of them other than her brother, parents and 2 kids. This woman had nothing other than contempt towards every single human being. I've always known her to use superficial charm to get validation, companionship, get her way, or just influence friends to behave to her liking. I was still shell-shocked by discovering the real her, as my understanding of a narcissistic personality was very shallow. At the time, the PI gave me names of the other affairs she had had or was still carrying on. She also slept with her boss, among others. As an example, just when I thought it had been all, there was little. Did I know that there was a plot twist in the offing? The communications between her and affair partner started referring to killing a certain somebody by poisoning their food. She suddenly developed a recent penchant for making food for me, even though we had not been talking for weeks at this time. At the first reference to the killing, I stopped consuming anything she cooked for me. I only ate the food intended for the whole family, and even then I wouldn't consume it if everyone else had already taken their share. The first reference to killing was so subtle that it was almost an animal instinct on my part to take such precautions. I felt I was being silly and paranoid. However, their subtlety soon went out of the window as their frustration and their discussions descended into inflamed arguments. Affair partner was urging her to kill me as soon as possible. And she was frustrated because, in her own words, "How can I add poison to the whole food?" I immediately cancelled my life insurance. My mental health had been tapering down for a while and I was struggling to maintain my sanity. Nothing more was to be gained by staying the course. So for the first time in months, I spoke to her. I told her that it was time to start planning for our divorce and that I knew about her and the affair partner. I gave her 4 to 5 quick examples of things that she couldn't believe in her wildest dreams that anyone other than the affair partner and she could have possibly known. I concluded with the assertion that my decision for divorce was 100% final. Moments into the conversation, her eyes went wide and her jaw hit the floor. The whole speech took 2 minutes, and that was the end of a 20-year relationship. It's now been 22 months since the discovery day and 10 since the divorce was fully finalized. My daughter lives with me half the time and my son lives with my ex-wife full-time. My son had discovered about their affair on his own as he had been to her work and seen them acting extremely familiar with each other post-divorce. He asked me if his hunch of the affair was true. I confirmed it but made sure not to add anything more. He spilled the beans about the affair to my daughter too. Child support is pretty punishing in the state I live in. And despite making a 6-figure salary, I'm living on what's essentially poverty wages. I focus on physical and mental health. Had 2 brief relationships since the divorce and hope to land a long-term partner. Every morning, I wake up and realize I'm alive and sane. My mind gets filled with serenity. I'm at peace with the world for the first time in ages. Wow. After reading your story, it sounds like your wife is not only a narcissist but also a full-blown psychopath. Your wife and her affair partner were willing to take you out just to uphold their affair. Your wife and her affair partner honestly sound like monsters and they both deserve each other. I would recommend finding a way to contact and tell the affair partner's wife if you can. I would also tell your son everything that happened. Your wife has absolutely zero remorse and your children definitely do not need to be around a dangerous woman like that. Let's see what the comments had to say about the situation. Big Cathead said, "Are you going to report this to the police? It's not conclusive proof of anything, but it is evidence worthy of an investigation." Responded by saying the evidence is not admissible in court. We don't live together anymore and I'm not in danger. My main concern is what kind of impact it might have on the kids. If the murder plot, that is, becomes a piece of public knowledge as it is. The divorce has been very hard on the kids. Accomplished Milk 816 said, "Wait, did she admit wanting to murder you? Do your kids know that? Did you tell the affair partner, spouse? Did your wife want to keep the marriage?" P's response was, "I confronted her with the evidence and she stayed silent in shocked disbelief. My kids don't know that and I haven't told them she wanted to keep the marriage, but I didn't." Now let's get into today's second story. I'm posting my story today because over the past year and a half, I have been a lurker on here and I have read many of other people's stories. I'm trying to get some sort of insight or clarity that would help me in my situation. There are a lot of heartbreaking stories on here but also some gems. I hope you can take something away from my story or that it can give you some sort of clarity on your journey through whatever it is you're going through. Back in 2018. At the end of July, my wife left for a quick work trip on a Thursday and flew home Saturday morning. That evening, my wife and I went to my stepdad's birthday dinner and nothing seemed off, anything totally normal. Sunday. We had our typical routine grocery shopping errands and got ready for the work week. The following Monday, when the work week started, Everything seemed normal and we did our usual texting throughout the day. But on my way home from work, she texted me saying, "I think I have a yeast infection and I'm going to get it checked out." I made a joke saying hopefully it's not an STD lol. She lol back. And that was that. A few hours later, before I had seen her, she texted me and said your comment earlier about it being an STD was weird. You don't think I'm cheating on you, do you? I kind of laughed and texted back, no lol, something about that comment for her to say that did put me off a little, thinking nothing of it. I went back to whatever I was doing. Looking back, this was red flag. Number 12 days went by and she said that it got worse and that she was going back in. I thought to myself, wow. I feel bad for her because I know she has had something like this mildly before, but never this bad when she came home from the doctor for the second time. She said she now has thrush and a severe yeast infection. I remember thinking to myself, what is thrush? And she explained to me how it's a throat infection. I remember joking with her saying, well, if you're sick, stay away from me because I don't want to get sick. And I'm so glad I did stay away. Looking back, all of this was red flag number 2 for the next couple of days. And into the weekend she was pretty much bedridden. She called into work and did some work things from home that she could. I remember not getting too close to her those handful of days and just kind of looking at her while she was either in bed or on the couch and just feeling bad. She was clearly sick and there really wasn't anything I could do the following week as she started to feel better. That's when I noticed something was going on with her. One day I came home from work and she was crying on the couch. I asked her what was wrong, and she said that she was going to start seeing a counselor. I was a bit puzzled, but I said, okay, and asked if I was going to go too, or if I needed to go. She said no, and that she just hasn't been feeling herself and needed to talk to someone. I said, okay, red flag number 3. A few days later, I get out of the shower and she is sitting on the bed crying again. I asked what's going on. And she said to me, is this as good as it gets? Is this what we want? Is this what you want? Is this what I want? Is there anything more to life than this? I remember being a little caught off guard because it took a second to register what she was asking. I didn't really know what to say. And I asked her, what do you mean? She just responded with a never mind, and I can't recount what happened after that. Then on August 14th at 9 p.m., we are getting in bed and she starts crying again. I ask her, what's the matter? And she starts crying even harder. I told her I know something has been going on these last couple of weeks, and whatever it is, I just want you to know, I love you, and whatever it is, we will work through it. She said, I can't tell you. If I tell you, you won't want to work it out. It was at that moment I started to feel the butterflies and adrenaline, or whatever you want to call it, in my stomach. And I said, please tell me. Then she hit me with it. I had a one-night stand. It was in that moment. All the red flags, all the little things that were going on in those previous weeks all came together like one big puzzle. Here's what happened when she was through with work for the day. She went to a bar to have a drink before going back to her hotel. She sent me a picture of the beer she was drinking and I said the nightly love you. Good night. While she was at the bar, she met a guy with the same name as me. Go figure. She ended up talking to him all night and having a few more drinks, and they left the bar at about 2 in the morning. They went back to his house where she then performed oral, and then they had sex without a condom. Turns out he had herpes and ended up giving it to her. And that yeast infection and thrush in her throat was actually the herpes outbreak. I remember feeling absolutely heartbroken, devastated, shocked, and in disbelief when she told me everything that had happened. I was pretty messed up for a few months following Discovery Day. So much that I had to get on meds for a while to get me straight. I knew something was physically wrong with me because I felt like total crap all the time, and turns out I had a blood pressure of 149/127. No wonder I felt like crap. I would say we had a good marriage. We were everyone's favorite couple. My dad even called us Ken and Barbie. I'm just trying to give you some context because we were not dysfunctional. Nor did we have some serious and obvious marital issues. But I guess what happened kind of proves otherwise. I remember when I told some of my close friends and family, everyone had the same wide-eyed look and the same "Are you serious?" response. It was a total shock to me as well as everyone that knew us. She's been going to a counselor this entire time and digging into everything that happened. The why's, the how's, the what's, all of it. She has told me she doesn't know why out of all the time she's been hit on by guys why she gave in this time. It doesn't really matter though, because what's done is done and all it takes is one time to bring a marriage crumbling down. She did say he made her feel wanted, gave her attention, and I guess validated her by telling her she was beautiful. If that's all it took, she has her own issues to deal with. And unfortunately, she wasn't adult enough to really get them out or say that something was really wrong before it was too late. It's been over a year and a half and we are separated, but this is still a major roadblock for me in my life. I have chosen to walk away from her and our marriage, and I struggle because this is never what I wanted. She wants to stay together and make it work. But for me, the damage is too great over this last year and a half. I do think she has tried to do the right things to try to make it work. But with the TD involved, I just can't, with all of what happened and knowing the details, I just can't do it. For me, the disrespect is too great. The humility is too much, and it was an act that was just uncalled for and was so selfish. It's sad because she knows she ruined a perfectly normal marriage and wishes she could take it back and wants a redo. But she made her choices that night. Plenty of them led her down that path. I don't think I'll ever understand how she could leave the bar with him. Get in his car, drive with him, go to his house, go inside, go into his bedroom. There are so many gates and red flashing lights and ringing bells and all of that. It's just unbelievable. But she made every one of those choices. Try to be aware of my pride and keep it in check. And I ask myself why I can't move forward with her. For me, it comes down to my values and beliefs, and what has happened goes against everything I believe in and stand for due to lots of cognitive dissonances. Then the whole herpes aspect that will never go away and will always be a constant reminder of what she did. And I choose to not put myself at risk of getting it mentally and emotionally. It's just too much. Plus I just don't see her in the same light or view her the same way. I've lost the respect and admiration I had for her. There are a lot of layers to this onion, and it's crazy how something like this can change your entire life physically and emotionally. I hope this helps you in some way. Keep your head up. You still have a life to live. You 100% have every right to feel the way you do. What she did was very selfish, and you should not have to justify it to yourself. Why leaving her was the best idea. I understand that it hurts to know that your wife was capable of doing such things. But remember that she has ultimately revealed to you her true colors. As you mentioned, her STD serves as a reminder of what she did, which is a sign that you should never take her back. You have a long life ahead of you. You should be thankful. You have no kids with her or any other ties you can and will get through this, while your wife, on the other hand, will have to live with her actions for the rest of her life. Talk about karma. Thanks for taking your time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so as of yet, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take